Hi folks, my name is Linda Emmett and welcome to Happiness is an Inside Job. We are the creators of our own reality, we create our own lives. Our mind is our biggest limit and it's our own beliefs, behaviours and habits constantly caught in those cycles that keep us trapped where we are and stand in the way of our own happiness. So throughout this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into some of those beliefs, habits and patterns, where they show up in your lives and what you can do to change them. Hi there noodles and welcome aboard. Happiness is an inside job, and the carriage on the train of happiness we're going to look at this week is insecurities, and first off what they are, how they show up in our lives, but also how to transform them, how to make those change, to move ourselves out of those real insecure feelings into a place of more self-esteem and more confidence. Because let's face it folks, I mean, like, feeling completely insecure in, be it in spaces in our life, places in our life, or overall having a high level of insecurity is detrimental to us going after what we want, what we desire, be it in relationships, work, friendship, or across our lives. It stops us showing up for ourselves. Our insecurities can stop us living a full life, leaving us in a space where we're existing rather than living. So we all have them, but depending on the level we have them to is the impact that they have on us. And it's something that we should be always working towards, because I do think, guys, the more we evolve, the more we grow, the more we move into bigger spaces in our lives, of course a level of insecurity will show up with a level of uncertainty, of course, but you build in the tools to work on that, and you continue to work on that throughout your life. And one, you can move your way through them, you can navigate your way past them into a more confident space, and they stop you being in stuckness. They, once you can move past them, it stops you staying stuck and stagnant in your life, too afraid to move forward into the spaces that you really want to be. So first we're going to look at, I suppose, what insecurity is, how we end up developing them, and then how we can transform them and start moving forward and achieve all the things that we want to achieve. And not only that, but feel how we want to feel each day. And that's the most important things, because we're emotional beings, and it's feeling how we want to feel is so important. It's not about, we can get everything externally, the money, the car, the homes, the kids, the jobs, the everything, whatever it is that we desire. But if we're still stuck in insecurity, none of that will ever be enough. So changing the internal world, one, changes what we go after, but two, changes how we feel about what we achieve, whether we believe we deserve it or we don't. So what we're going to look at first is what insecurity is. And insecurity is deep feelings of inadequacy, those age-old creepers, the not good enoughs. It's internal lack. I am not good enough, I am not smartable enough, I am not worthy enough, I am not kind enough, I'm not a good enough person. All of those not good enoughs. And that inadequacy, that lack, that not good enoughs, and feelings of uncertainty, that constant feeling of uncertainty, that all comes from our insecurities. And a lot of the time it can produce a huge amount of anxiety when it comes to us going after our goals. We can prefer to not be seen rather than be out there and be seen. It can leave us sitting on the sidelines of the arena of our own lives rather than driving in and being the leading lady or the leading gent of our own life. And another space that our insecurities hugely do show up is within our relationships. So we're going to look at ourselves, there are insecurities within ourselves, and also how they show up in our relationships, because they can have a detrimental effect. Because if we're really insecure, we're constantly waiting on rejection, and we're also perceiving a lot of things as rejection, sometimes even when it's not. So that's what I suppose insecurity is. We're often triggered either consciously or unconsciously, and that often causes us to take actions either to protect ourselves, to move ourselves away out of situation, to avoid situations, as in not showing up at all, be it social gatherings, into relationships, on dating sites, on in the workspace for that promotion, whatever it is. And these are often triggered by uncertainty or something new. It can be triggered by a new colleague coming into a job that we may see as more academic than we are, have more certificates than we do, have more knowledge, more whatever it is, look better. You know, they show up in so many ways. So the question is, you know, first off, understanding is power. And the question first needs to be, how do we end up with securities? Where do these come from in the first place? How do they manifest? And again, we're not born with them. We're not born insecure. We don't come onto this planet. Our soul doesn't come in with insecurities. These are things we are either told, not told, and very much learned patterns from previous experiences. We learn literally what to be insecure about. And as I say, that lies in the things we are told, it lies in the things we are not told, often the things we need to hear, and we don't hear them from children. This is where our insecurities start to breed. And our insecurities, as we become older, are very much triggered by our fear of being negatively judged. In childhood, it comes from being judged by the parents, not being accepted, not being loved. And in adulthood, it still comes from that space, but also very much a fear of being negatively judged, because that's one of those primal fears that I think we will always be looking at. So understanding the nature of our own insecurities can really help us to start managing them. But that does take us taking a look at ourselves. And I know certainly, first off, I suppose there's physical insecurities. And I think every one of us carries some of them. We have this image in our mind attached to our identity of how we should be. And the shoulds are the biggest stressors on the planet. The shoulds are the difference between where we actually are and where we believe we should be. And that can very much show up in the physical space. Again, you know, not hurdle and blame, but I mean, like, social medias and stuff have a huge impact. It's what is feeding into our internal environment. What we're seeing all the time is feeding the environment that we're living in internally. So they certainly do have an impact. The relationships we're in, what we're hearing, but above all else, our relationship with ourselves, how we're speaking to ourselves, how we're treating ourselves. These can either diminish our physical insecurities or breathe fire into them, really light them up until they're really navigating our lives for us. So within the physical insecurity space, I know certainly for me, like some examples, I grew up as like the tallest girl in my class. Like I was towering over the boys and the girls in primary school. And I even remember back then, I wanted to shrink so badly. I was so self-conscious. I mean, like, I'd be brought around to my friends' houses and they'd call out their mas or their sisters and say, look at her, look, she's the same age as me, and look at the size of her. And like, for so long, I willed myself to be smaller, to fit in, to be the same as everything else. And I mean, like, I look back now, guys, and I tell you now, I'd absolutely love an owl inch or two divine inches of height on me legs, you know. But unfortunately, I think I willed myself so much to stop growing back then, because I was so self-conscious. I became very insecure about it. You add to that, I had bright red hair, I'd 76,000 freckles that people did comment quite a bit, and I was regularly called, you know, ginger, rusty, lanky, carrot, all of those things. And I know they mightn't seem as big now, but to me, like, I felt like Big Bird on Sesame Street. the big yellow bird that stood out miles above all the other little cute Sesame Street characters. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I felt. And when you're a child, you just want to fit in. So that's some of the spaces that some of my insecurities started off. And I was also always expected to be the one to fight because I was the tallest in the group. You know, my friends would like send in the big guns, you know, laying Europe, and the Haydens would be flying down the back of the bus on the way to school. And, you know, I was there in my brown uniform having to look all macho sometimes when I was terrified. And I know, I mean, like brown uniform on top of everything else. Life was rough then, folks. It was a struggle. But like these are some of the things that played into and started some of the foundations of my physical insecurities. And over time, they were compounded. I remember, you know, by the time I was 12, I'd actually worked up the courage to ask the boy that I fancied for like 2 years. 2 years. Graham was his name. I was mad about him. But I worked up the courage to ask him to meet me, which was what you did when you wanted to kiss someone behind the wall. I never kissed anybody at that age. Do you know what I mean? So I'd actually worked up the courage. And what you did was you sent your mate to do the job for you. She went with another mate and asked him to meet you. And she came back and she said to me, you know, yeah, I asked him for you, but he said that you were too ugly, but he would meet me if I'd meet him. So do you mind? And again, I know that seems maybe small enough. I'm still shouting swine in my head if I'm honest. Like, do you know what I mean? But that cut deep. I still remember standing in my friend's hall when she came and told me that news and said, he says that you're too ugly, but he does want to meet me. And it's these things that breed into and play into our insecurities. And that, I mean, like that happens all of us growing up. We'll all develop insecurities at different levels. And what happens is they creep and grow into our adult life. The more we step into new arenas, new relationships, new places, all of these things, they can breed and grow if we don't look at them and don't start working on them. And I know, like, for me, they've showed up in so many ways in my adult life. Like, I hid behind makeup for years because I believed I was too ugly. I mean, I could have all the comments on the freckles and oh, there's ginger and all of that stuff. And now there was many other things, but that was certainly one of them. And then what he said about me being so ugly too, you know, self-conscious young teen or preteen. In my adult, for years, the moment I could wear makeup, I was, you know, out with me nanny's pan stick, no idea colour, plastering that all over my face, and wearing whatever lipstick, little bits that I got off other people, and to hide my face. It wasn't about the excitement of makeup, it was to hide the ugliness for me. And that went on for a long, long time because that was just something I did. I never wanted to be seen without makeup. I never wanted the sun to hit my face for more freckles to grow. I always wore the L factor 50, not to protect me from the dangerous sun rays, but to make sure more freckles wouldn't grow. So as more people wouldn't comment on them, because I became extremely insecure about them. And as I say, that stretched out into my adult life. And it's only when I started looking at that and why I never felt comfy in a bikini, why I hid behind makeup, why I feared rejection with men, with making the first move and things like that, these memories came up, these different points of my life came up and showed me where some of my physical insecurities came from. And for yourselves, guys, it is worth looking at the places and spaces you hide your body in, what you don't like about yourself, and whose voice that is, where that's coming from in your life. Who is it that said that? Was it, you know, the Grahams of, you know, 3 decades ago that said it to you, who was probably shown off in front of his mates, or whatevs? Do you know what I mean? But the impact they can have. So it's worth looking at what your own insecurities are in the physical space and whose voice it is and where it comes from. The second space that our insecurities really show up is within our relationships. And our relationships are the most important thing in our lives. be it our relationship with ourselves, which the insecurities impact, and how we are and who we are within our relationships with others, whether we're our authentic self or we're these mask of identities and ways we feel we need to show up. And relationship insecurity is one of the most common types of insecurity, and this again relates back to the old childhood where it all stems from. And this is in part because this is where we build our foundations for who we are, our sense of self, and we build them from our external environment and what we pick up, what we absorb from that, but we also learn them from a child's mind, not the adult that we are now. We form a sense of self from what the child believes, from what the child sees and feels, and also from the environment that child is living in. So this is how they're created, but long after we've left that childhood environment and that childhood home, we're carrying these patterns and these insecurities, and the core relationships we learn as children, the relationship styles that we see, can very often be the relationship styles that we go after as adults, because we don't know any better, we don't know anymore. So looking at what our own relationship styles are and looking at what our own insecurities are within relationships is very, very powerful, because we can very often as children form attachment patterns. I've done a pod on this, as you know, folks, and the four different styles. And the most common insecure attachment style is the avoidant. And that comes from, when we didn't, our, parents within our environment, our guardians, caretakers, they weren't available, they weren't supportive, they didn't show the love, and the child becomes quite insecure within the connection, within that attachment. And they can often form, because the child always turns it on themselves, they often form a very negative self-image and a negative style of attaching to people. They either avoid it completely or show up as what they believe they need to be to get that love, to get that acceptance, to get that validation. And again, that leaves us feeling extremely inauthentic in our relationships, believing that if we're seen as who we truly are in all our fabulous glory, that person will reject us, abandon us, or walk away. And it can create huge emotional distress on us. And again, the bigger thing, it can cause us to avoid connecting in the first place. And that we find extremely painful. And people who have the avoidance style, it'll either avoid attaching at all, or when they do, it'll be a very superficial attachment, that they'll disengage from more intimate connections. And I know certainly in my past, especially with our male counterparts, I, for a long time, very much went after like the thrill of the chase, the first dating, the highs of that, the excitement, all of that stuff. I loved that side, but I completely avoided that deep connection, that intimacy, that more long-term relationship, that deeper bond, that love space. I very much avoided that. I only went for the well, not only, but for, I suppose, the space of my life, I certainly did only went for, that the dating, the thrills, the fun parts, or how I seen them, and really wouldn't allow myself go deeper for a long time. And that's a style of avoidant. You'll do the thrill of the chase, the fun, but none of the deeper stuff. You'll completely avoid that. And this can also very much, when we have avoidant attachment, it can stream out into all aspects of our life. It can show up with our peers, within our friendships, where we're showing up as someone we believe we need to be rather than who we actually are. And this means that we're not forming true connections. We're not showing up when we're in pain, when we're feeling lonely, when we're feeling low, anxious, or depressed, because we think that people don't want to see these sides of us. We don't want to show all of who we are, which in turn stops them being able to connect with us as well. So looking at what your own style is in relationships, what your insecurities are, what your fears are, what you're afraid of. And it's the beginning, folks, to start unlearning those patterns that were never ours in the first place. They're just things that we picked up. Quick tip, folks, if you're hearing yourself say, I'm happy as I am, I'm grand, I'm very independent, or I'm comfortable with my life, or I have no time at the moment for a relationship or for more friends or to be getting out there or to join that group or to do those things that you really want to do. Deep down, this is fear, this is your insecurities, this is your avoidance. So I suppose now, folks, how do we unlearn the patterns and the insecurities often embedded from childhood and get to that more confident space, where we're both more comfortable in our own skin, comfortable as the unique, beautiful human being that we are, and comfortable to show up as all that we are in all our relationships. So, firstly, it's comparison. Stop comparing yourself to others in your life. Stop scrolling the media or the friends or the peers stop comparing yourself to others. This is having a detrimental, this is not helpful, it's having a detrimental impact, and it's breeding into your feeding your own insecurities. These feed the shoulds where you should be. I should be there, she's there, I should be doing that, he's doing that. It breeds it. So cutting comparison and look at where you're doing it in your life and cut yourself off from it. You're feeding your insecurities, you're feeding your own negativity. And when you hear yourself, when we feel like when we're trying something new, we're putting ourselves out there and we go, oh God, what will they say? What will they say if they see me doing this different thing I'm doing? That's your own inner judge speaking. Ask yourself who the they are. Who are they? Take a look at them. Who are these people that you believe are going to be judging you? Because what's actually happening is this is your own inner judge saying that in your head. These are your ghosts and shadows from your past. Your own insecurities, they're not real. It's coming from your own perspective and your own judge sitting there on a throne going, they will stare at you, they will look at you, they will say this. That's your own judge talking. So picking up on that and learning and looking at the days, who are they? And what impact do they have on your life? Anyway, it's your role to make you happy, and whoever the day may be, it's their role to make themselves happy. So stay in your own arena and let the day or the imaginary day do what they want to do. Another thing to do, folks, is with our own self-esteem. Look at how you're reporting back to yourself. Look at when you achieve something, when you do something in your life, how you're speaking to yourself, how you're showing up, basically how you're reporting back to yourself on how well you're doing. And in the evenings or at night time, start running a little report on all the great things you did that day, the kindnesses, the love, different spaces you felt good. Start shifting that report and making it far more positive. Get far more rooted in you. Know who you are and what you are about. Know your strengths. Know the things that you love or even like about you. Know those things and start reminding yourself of them. Build your success list of all the successes, all the accomplishments, all the achievements, all the amazing people that love you, everything in your life. Build that success and have that front and center in front of you. And every time those insecurities rear their head with that old judge and his mallet, remind yourself of all those successes, all the achievements, and have your own view of what success looks like. Not what media tells you, not what your boss or your peers do. What success is for you. How you want to feel each day. What a good body looks like for you. Not what Cinderella looks like, or, Sleeping Beauty, or what Barbie looked like, or what social media looked like, or any of those things. I mean, guys, if you remember, if we follow trends, it was only a decade ago that heroin chic and thinspiration were a massive trend across the globe and had women down to size 4s and 6. It's not healthy. Have your own idea of what feeling good in your skin looks like. and go after that. What a healthy, strong, fit body is like for you, and go after that, not what's being blasted out on social media. And one of the key elements is having your circle of friends, loved ones, supporters, your cheerleaders, and connecting in with them. They're the ones that, you know yourself when you're around your mates, the amazing positive energy you get. When you're around loved ones, your supporters, have them, build them. They're your new foundation as an adult. Build them, be around them, and they will teach you to be your own biggest cheerleader and learn to say thank you when you get a compliment. Don't throw out, oh yeah, I got it in pennies, or have this 100 years, or oh no, I was slimmer last week, or no, whatever it is, whatever the insecurity, wherever you normally blurt out, just learn to say thank you. And the very last one that I, do give out to my clients a lot, but they love it. No, they don't, but they do eventually. Is mirror work. Look at yourself in the mirror. Find the beautiful stuff. Find the good stuff. Not only in the physical, but in the emotional, the mental, all of that. Find that. Spend 2 minutes a day looking at yourself through more loving eyes. It may be uncomfortable at the start, but believe me, it is worth the work. You will be like me dancing in the mirror now. Do you know what I mean? And just being able to look at myself and say, I love you. And that is powerful, because from that space, you're limitless. You will go on and achieve anything. So go whip out those mirrors now, guys, and give yourself that loving. So that's it for me for this week, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it and got some fabulous takeaways. And as always, I invite you to connect in with me across social media, or check me out on my website, www.yourgifttoyou.com, or email me, linda@yourgifttoyou.com, guys, because I'd love to hear from you, and any topics you'd like for us to talk about, or any more learnings that you want. And please remember, give me those reviews, because it keeps the podcast getting out there to more people. So chat to you very soon, guys. Bye bye.